Welcome back to Season Breakdown, the series where I, a girl with no qualifications in this area whatsoever, other than watching every Grand Prix at 3 o'clock in the morning, because time zones, break down the 2023 Formula One season by team and driver, covering their highs and their lows and everything in between. And this week, on Season Breakdown, we are talking Alfa Romeo, or as it's known with the influencers at Miami, Alfa Romeo. And again, if you watched my season comparison, you'll have a fairly decent idea on my opinions on Alfa Romeo's season. Or should I say Steak F1 team now? Because, Anywho, I know they've changed their name, but I will be referring to them as Alfa Romeo for the duration of this video because that's what they were called in 2023. So don't come at me in the comments. Thank you. At the end of 2022, they made the decision to keep their driver lineup of Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas heading into the 2023 season, given that in 2022 they managed to finish in P6 in the constructors and believed that they would once again be a strong contender in the midfield. Oh, but boy, were they wrong. They were really wrong on that one. Their highest qualifying position for a Grand Prix, and again, I reiterate, this is only for Grand Prix. We'll do the combined later. Is held by Zhou Guanyu, who managed a P5 start in Hungary. And if you look at that isolated thing, you're like, that's not too bad, really. It's not too bad. But similarly to Haas, the one with the highest qualifying position also holds the team's worst qualifying position, having finished qualifying at the bottom of the grid on more than one occasion in 2023. I mean, man got knocked out in Q1 on 15 separate occasions. That's almost like we had 22 races. He got out of Q1 in 7 of them. And this man is confused why people are questioning his position in the team. He has an average qualifying position of 16th. And he still thinks that in this cutthroat nature of Formula One, that his seat is a guarantee. You cannot go downhill that badly over the course of a single season in performance and think that your seat for the next season and beyond is a guarantee. But mind you, Valtteri Bottas's performance in qualifying also wasn't great. His highest qualifying position was 7th. Come on, Valtteri, we know you can do better, which was also in Hungary. And he was knocked out in Q1 on 8 occasions. Come on, Valtteri. We know you can do better. His worst qualifying position was P19. So at least he didn't start absolute smack bang at the bottom of the grid. And he ended the season overall season average of P14. So, I mean, it's not that much better, but it's still better. Not by much, but it's still better. The highest Grand Prix finish for the duo is held by Valtteri, who finished in 8th position in Bahrain and Qatar, clearly favouring those Middle Eastern desert tracks if we just don't mention Saudi. And overall finished the season with an average finish of P14. I mean, overall pretty consistent. I mean, over the season, pretty consistent when looking at both quali and race performances. In terms of Zhou, his highest Grand Prix finish was 9th, which he managed on 3 separate occasions. Okay? He didn't get better, but he managed it on 3 occasions. Something to strive for. He did this in races, including the carnage that was the Australian Grand Prix. How he didn't get higher in that, I do not know. But he didn't wipe out. And that is something to celebrate. He also managed 9th in Spain and Qatar. But other than those 3 races and those 3 finishes in P9, he didn't score any additional points. He didn't manage to scrape in a single point in P10 across the entire season. And he finished the season with an average finishing position of P14, also giving him a positive average differential of 1.5 positions gained per race. So, I mean, positive signs. I'm not just going to shit on them the entire time, but I think both he and the team would like for those 1.5 positions gained to be a little bit higher up the grid than giving him a P14. In terms of sprint races, because I know how much drivers love sprint races. Valtteri takes home the prize for the highest shootout position of P13 in Qatar, while the worst goes to Zhou, who managed P19 in the Belgian shootout. Neither managed to score any points in sprint races in 2023, similar to Haas. Again, are we really surprised considering they're at the bottom of the table? But the highest finish in a sprint race also goes to Valtteri, with a P10 in Qatar. I mean, if it was a Grand Prix, came home with a point. No points for 10th in a sprint. Sorry, Valtteri, you tried your best. But coincidentally, he also has the worst sprint finish with a P19 in Brazil. So, go figure. And again, from memory, I'm fairly sure that was a crash. But don't hold me to that. Everything's a little bit fuzzy. It's been 6 weeks. Zhou's best shootout performance came in Qatar and Austin. Weird place for a sprint, in my opinion. But anyway, where he managed P15. And in terms of sprint race finishes, his best came in Azerbaijan, where he managed P12. His worst finishes came in Austin and Brazil. He managed P17 in both of those races. Not where you want to be. It really isn't. It's where I expected the rookies to be. But he repeatedly got beaten by the rookies. Valtteri ended the season with an average shootout position of 16th. Not great. He had 5 races. Couldn't manage to get out of Q1. While Zhou managed 18th. And again, couldn't get out of Q1. But both managed to claw back the positions in the sprint itself, with both averaging a P15 finish. And I mean average, they both, I feel sorry for you. Giving Bottas a positive average differential for sprint races, only for sprint races, of 1 position, and Zhou an average of 1.6. And again, only for sprint races. If we combine the Grand Prix and the sprint, this is where we combine them, we see that Valtteri is leading the way with the highest averages in qualifying and race finishes, leading in both aspects, with a P15 across the board, in comparison to Zhou's P16 in quali and P15 in race finishes. So on par in finishes, not so great in quali. But, I mean, that can also be attributed to levels of experience and different things. I mean, Valtteri has been going at this a lot longer than Zhou. But he's no longer a rookie. He's been at these tracks before. Do we really have an excuse for this poor behavior, these poor performances? Despite this though, Zhou does have the highest combined differential of the duo, gaining an average of 1.5 positions per race to Valtteri's 0.4 gain. So, I mean, Valtteri has the one up on some aspects, Zhou has it on another. If we look at it, put them side by side, kind of even. Great for Zhou to be even on par in some aspects with Valtteri, given his level of experience. But overall team averages. So the averages of both drivers across all formats for the entire season was not great. An average qualifying position of P16, an average race finish of P15, and an average positional differential of 1 place. And that's a positive, that's a positional gain. So that's not bad. Positives. They just need to work on that going into 2024. In comparison to their other teams, their qualifying and race finishes are lacking. But, I mean, that doesn't really come as a surprise given they finished 9th out of 10 teams. But they are leading the way in terms of positions gained, given that they have the highest overall average of all 10 teams. So it's not all bad for Alfa Romeo. Their best race of the season would arguably be Qatar, given I'm fairly sure it's the only race this season where they've had a double points finish. I might be wrong, but looking at my stats, that was the only race where they've had a double points finish. And while I would like to point out one specific race as their worst race of the season, it was honestly not their weekend more than it was. So let's just focus on the positive that was Qatar, because if I start trying to break down their worst race, this is going to be a very long video. Their biggest positional loss of the season is awarded to none other than Zhou Guanyu, who lost 11 places in Silverstone. Like, how do you lose 11 places? But coincidentally, he also holds the title of highest positional gain of the season, with 11 places in Austin. So, I mean, it all evens out in the grand scheme of things, right? VB's biggest gain, was 8 places in Australia. So good job. I mean, the carnage may have helped that, but he survived. Oh, and also 8 places in Silverstone. Great job. Take advantage of your teammates' failure. Anyway, while his biggest loss of the season was 9 places in Las Vegas. And he didn't have something hit the bottom of his car from the track. So, what can we expect from them in 2024? Well, with a new name in Stake F1 team that they will inevitably have to change in certain races, including my home race of Australia, given their gambling affiliations, the sky's the limit. Joking. But they have said that they hope to improve on their 2023 season and just improve overall, given that Audi's coming in 2 years. The biggest question on many people's minds is the future of Zhou. And while there is definitely evidence and arguments to suggest that he has what it takes to compete, like I give you the 11 places he gained in Silverstone. Oh, it was gained in, what one was it? Gained in Austin, right? 11 places he gained in Austin. His performances are nowhere near they're not consistent. And that is probably what's going to be his downfall. If he wants to maintain his seat and his position on the grid, he needs to put in some consistent performances at the start of 2024. And I mean, unlike his teammate in Valtteri, he doesn't have a legacy of race wins and P2 in the championship to fall back on. Yes, Valtteri didn't achieve that in this car, but the team knows that's what he's capable of and that he is a great driver. They're not just going to sack him for the sake of it and hope that they can put a rookie in there and all will be well. Zhou's immediate risk is that if he does not put in consistent performances at the start of 2024, Théo Pourchaire will be in his seat in 2025. Zhou has said that his immediate future is with Stake F1 and that is not changing anytime soon. But reports and things like this don't just materialize if there isn't a hint of truth, do they? I mean, I'm not just sitting here coming up with this shit myself. There's been multiple reports from various news outlets about this. And for Zhou to come out and address it himself, the noise has got to be overwhelming. And while I hope that, the team do give him every chance possible to keep his seat and perform, because I have no doubt that some of his performance was attributed to the car and their lack of upgrades and all of that. Something needs to change, other than the name of the team. Otherwise, they're going to be at the bottom of the constructors once again in 2024. So, anyway, that is it for episode 2 of Season Breakdown, where I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. Make sure to like, subscribe, all the fun things, and I will see you in episode 3 for my next one.